Hello guys, welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to create .NET MAUI Blazor chat application using Firestore. So let's create here Blazor Hybrid app. So I'm just going to use FireTalk project name, and also I'm going to use Mud Blazor component library so I can use that all modern UI. Okay, so here project is created. Now I'm going to install Mud Blazor library. For that, just right click on project, then click on manage NuGet packages, and here search for Mud Blazor. I already created one setup video that how you can set up Mud Blazor library. You can go through that video. So just click on install. Okay. Now after that, here in www root folder, here in index.html, I'm just going to add required CSS and also JavaScript. Now here in Maui program.cs, you just need to add one line builder.services dot add mud services. Now you can use all Mud Blazor component in this project. Now here in main layout.razor, I'm going to replace this code with mud layout. In that mud main content, so whatever the main content available is going to display here. Okay, now I'm going to create here one login page, and for now here page attribute I'm going to set as a root page, and here home I'm just going to set as a home. Okay, so now here on login page I'm just going to add sign in sign up screen. I already created that design, so I'm just going to add that here. Okay, displaying layout, but it's not applying style. So let me check here in the index.html. We already added Mud Blazor CSS, and here, yeah, here in main layout, I need to add Mud theme provider. Then it's going to apply theme. Okay, so this is going to be our sign in and sign up screen. Now let me explain this layout design. Okay, so here I am displaying sign in and sign up layout. So this first condition is for sign in. So here I am using mud form. So this mud form we can use for used for performing some validation. If I click on sign, so it's showing required field validation, then email is valid or not, that all validation. So first here mud text field, it's a email text field, and here in a validation I'm using email address attribute. It's the inbuilt annotation available in this system.component model.data annotation. So when I click on button, that time it's this validation going to invoke. And here I already said required is equal to true. If I not add any value, then it's just default validation. And if I add invalid email, then it's going to invoke this email address attribute validation. Now here second one is a password text field. And here I have created password strength method. So first when I don't add any values, it's a default is going to check it's a value added or not. After that, here password strength method. So let me just show. So if I don't add any value, so it's just going to return password is required. Now let's say if I added any password, but it's not matching one of condition, then it's just going to return that password must be at least 8-character length. Okay. Now here on the click of sign up, I'm displaying, I'm just setting this show sign up variable to true. So it's just going to display that sign up layout. Now here another mud form I'm using because this is a different validation and this create account has a different validation. So here same thing I use email password, just binding property is different. So for sign in I'm using email binding property email and password. So when I'm going to use Firestore service, so we can fetch email and password from this property and pass to that API service. Now here I'm using sign up name, sign up email, and password and confirm password. Okay, so for email, it's the same email address attribute validation and password also same password strength validation. The only thing here different is I'm setting one reference variable here for password field 1 because I want to compare that the password and confirm password is same or not. So for that, here I am using password match method. So if you see here, I'm just checking if the password field 1 value not matching the current field value. That means a confirm password field value. Then it's just going to say password does not match. So let's say here I added value that not matching with this one. Then is a password doesn't match. It's going to show this validation. If it is match, then it just that validation will go. Another is a normal validation. Okay, here in text field you can set different variant also. Right now it's outline, but you can set as a field. Then here text box will look like this. If I set as a text, then it's just going to look like this. Okay, now I'm just going to implement Firestore service and save this user data in Firestore. Okay, now let's create Firestore database in Google Firebase console. For that, just search Firebase console in Google and here click on go to console option, and here either create new project or if you already created then select existing project. So here I'm just going to select employee detail project. Now here in build option you will see Firestore database option. Just click on that option. Okay, here I already created Firestore database. That reason I am seeing this screen. Okay. After creation of this Firestore database, now click on here project setting option and click on service account, and from here Just download that Firebase admin SDK. Okay, so just click on generate new private key and just download it. Okay, now this admin SDK I'm going to add in our project. So here in a resources folder, inside a row folder, you need to add that. So let me add admin SDK. Okay, now let me install Firestore plugin. For that, click on project, right click on project, click on manage NuGet packages, search for the google.cloud.firestore plugin. Now install this plugin in your project. Now here I'm going to create services folder. In that I'm going to create Firestore service. Let me add one class called Firestore service.cs. Okay, here I'm going to create one Firestore db property, and now we are going to read this Firebase admin SDK that we have added here in row folder. So for that, let me add code from file system dot open app package file async. Okay, now our file name is this one, Firebase admin SDK. So that I'm going to add key.json.result. Okay, now from stream, I'm going to read that all content, and once this content available here in this variable that we can use in this client builder. Now this property we're going to use firestore db is equal to firestore db dot create. In that, here we need to specify our project ID that you will get from project setting. So here, if you click on project setting in general, you will get this project ID. Then this client builder dot build. By this way, it's going to assign this firestore db, newly created db, here in this variable. Now we can use this variable to perform database operation. So another, here I'm going to create service. Let me add one interface. Okay, I'm going to create FireTalk service interface and their implementation. Another class I'm going to create is FireTalk service, and this class going to inherit a FireTalk service interface. Now here in MAUI program.cs, I'm going to register. First, I'm going to register Firestore service, then FireTalk service. Okay. Now this Firestore DB property I'm going to access here in FireTalk service. So for that, let me create one public property. This property now I'm going to access here. Okay, so from this Firestore service, this database object reference I'm going to assign here. Now I can use this Firestore db dot collection and all other property to create record in Firestore. Now let me add here one model. So I'm going to create here one class called user model. And this going to be Firestore data. Now all Firestore property I'm going to create ID, name, email, then password, address not needed. Okay. Now this class I'm going to use here in part of service to create record. So here I'm going to use Firestore db.collection user.document user.id and document reference.set async. So it's going to create record in Firestore user collection. This method I'm going to add here in interface method declaration. Okay, now here on login page, I'm going to inject FireTalk service. Now here on sign up click, I'm going to first add data in user model. So name, email, password. Then ID I'm going to set as a GUID, new GUID. Another property I'm going to add that is created at, so we can find out when the record is created. Now here we just need to call that part of service dot save user data async. In that just need to pass user model. Now this is loading property I'm going to set as a true when this on sign up click event is called. So is and to show loader I'm just going to call state has been changed. So it's going to display loader. This is loading true, then signing up content is going to display. And once this service response comes, that time I'm going to set is loading to false, and after that I'm going to inform UI that state has been changed. So it's going to hide that loader. Now let me create one method to encrypt this password. So I'm going to encode this password in SHA-256 format. Now here I'm just going to pass current password. Okay, now let me run application and let's see it's adding data or not. Okay, here it's showing this method not implemented. Okay, I forgot to make this as a public. Here, okay, now it should work. Okay, now here I'm just going to create a record. Okay, it's showing some error. Let me add breakpoint here. Okay, so it's returning name, then email, and password. Okay, so here it should be sign up password instead of password. Now it should work. Let me again rerun. Okay, so now loader went. So probably record is created. So let's check in Firestore. So here I'm just going to select Firestore database. Okay, so it has created users collection. In that here GUID added, and inside the GUID it has created this user record. So now let me explain. Okay, so here this save user data sync method containing user model class, and this class has a Firestore data attribute. So this attribute represents that this user model is a document in Firestore collection, and this all is a document property. Okay, now here it's just going to create record inside user collection. So inside user collection is just going to create one document with this randomly generated GUID, and inside that GUID you will see all the record information. Now if we pass same GUID again, so it's just going to override data, otherwise it's going to create new record. Now here I'm going to add another method to check whether the user already exists in Firestore with same email or not. Okay, here I'm going to create each user existing method. In that I'm going to pass email. Now we're going to check here in user collection. So here in query I'm going to write if the inside a user reference is the email. Okay, so from user collection I'm just going to check is there any record matching with this email property value or not. So now with this query I'm going to execute. And here I'm going to check if the record available, then return true, otherwise false. Now before calling this method save user data async, I'm just going to make as a boolean. Now here I will check if this user exists with user.email, then return false, otherwise here I'm going to return true. So if the record saves successfully, it's going to return true, otherwise it's going to return false. Now let me add this method here also, save the data sync. Now here in login page dot eraser, I'm just going to add here one boolean property. Now here I'm going to add dialog service, and also here in main layout I need to add mud dialog provider, otherwise it won't work. Now I'm going to display here message dialog service dot show text show message box. Okay, now if the account is created, then I'm just going to set is so sign up is equal to false. I'm going to set. Now let me run the application. Okay, I'm using same email that record already created. Okay, so it's showing a user with this email already exists. Now let me try different email. Okay, so your account has been created successfully. You can now log in. So that message is displaying and login screen is coming. Here another thing I'm going to add is create account form dot reset a sync. So once account is created, then it's going to just reset that form. Now here in part of service, another method I'm going to create is for login. So let me add login async method. In that I'm going to pass email and password. So here already uh, we have written the code to fetch record with that email available or not. So now from this snapshot, I'm just going to fetch first document, and if document does not equal to null, then here I'm just converting this document to user model. As we already know, this is going to return a record in user model format. And if the password is matching, then we do one thing, we're just going to return entire user models. Otherwise, just return null. Now, this method I'm going to add here in interface method declaration. Now here in login page.razor, here on sign in click, I'm just going to set this float as a true first, then login async, and here I'm going to pass email and password. Okay, now if response does not equal to null, then I'm just for now I'm going to show as a login successful, otherwise login failed. After that, we're going to create another page to show user details. Same thing, this is loading progress bar. I'm going to add here also. Now let me run the application. Okay, now let me try to log in here. Oh, okay, here I forgot to add a wait that reason it show me data instantly. Now let me again rerun the application. So now we're going to check. Okay, now it's showing loader signing in. Now it's showing you have login successful message also. Now let me try wrong password. Okay, now it's showing invalid email or password. Now this user reference we're going to save in preferences. Set okay, and here I'm going to set user info JSON. Okay, so now if the user has a valid login detail, then I'm going to set this user info property with this value. So when the application start, that time I'm going to check if any user info available. If it is available, that means the user is logged in our application. If it is not available, that means the user is not logged in. So using preferences, I'm going to identify that. Now I'm going to create one page here called app launch, and here now page attribute I'm going to set as a root page, and this login page attribute I'm going to set as a sign in, or just set as a login page. Okay, now here in app launch, so when this on initialize method is going to call, that time I'm just going to fetch data from preferences. Okay, in that key here on login page we have set, once the login is done, that with this key we are setting this value. So for fetching also I need to pass same key. Okay, now this value is going to be in string format, because here in preferences we can set value either in string, integer, boolean. That type of complex object we cannot save directly. That reason we saved info in string format. Now I'm just going to deserialize this user info string. Okay, now if the user info is not null, then I'm just going to navigate to home screen. Otherwise, just navigate to login page. Now let me run the application and let's say it's navigating or not. Okay, so first it navigate to sign in screen. Now let me just sign in. Okay, now it's showing you have logged in successfully. Here redirection later I'm going to add. For now, let me rerun the application and let's see now it's fetching user detail or not. Okay, so now here we are checking if the user info is available, then directly navigate to home screen. Okay, so now we have implemented login flow here in this application. Now here on main layout.razor, I'm just going to add mud app bar, and here in code section I'm just going to call on initialize. Now from preferences here also I'm going to grab value. Okay, if the value is not null, then I'm just going to set this value in user info. Here I'm going to add title in app bar as a FireTalk and then mud spacer. So right side of the app bar I'm going to show mud avatar, and in that I'm just going to display user initial. So let me create one method, get user initial method, and this method I'm going to call here. And another thing I'm going to add, let me set one variable is user logged in. So if the user is logged in, then only so mud app bar. Okay, so now it's displaying here title and the mud avatar. Now let me just set the size as a size dot medium. Yeah, this will be okay. Now here I'm going to add mud app drawer also. Here I'm going to create one property drawer open or not. So and that I'm going to set here. Now here in mud app bar, one icon I'm going to add. So on the click of that, drawer will open. Okay, mud icon button. Now on the click of, I'm just going to call drawer toggle method. Let me see it's working or not. Okay, so on the click of this menu hamburger icon, it's displaying. Okay, now let's design this navigation drawer. So for that, here I'm just going to use mud navigation menu, and let me just add some style. So first I'm going to show here mud avatar, then user detail from user info, name and email. Okay, now here let me just increase the size of mud avatar to large. Let me see. Okay, now this content I'm going to align center. Okay, now I'm just going to add navigation menus. Okay, so here home option added. Now another profile section, I'm going to add profile option. Another one, sign out. Okay, so now displaying home section, profile section, and sign out. Let me change to logout. Okay, now let's increase the height of this mud paper. So here I'm just going to set height as 95 VH. Okay, now let me add profile section. So for that I'm just going to create eraser page, profile page. Here page attribute I'm going to set as a profile. Okay, so now here on main layout, when I click on this profile menu, then it's going to open that page. Now let me create one dialog component. So when I click on logout button, it's going to show confirmation blocks. Like, are you sure you want to log out? So for that, let me add here Here in dialogs folder, I'm going to add one new component called dialog.razor. Now here in parameter, I'm going to accept one title, dialog title. I'm going to set then description, then OK button text, cancel button text. Now here I'm going to use mud dialog. Here in dialog content attribute, I'm just going to set mud text, and dialog content variable I'm going to set here. Okay, now here in dialog action, I'm going to add button, one for cancel button. By default, I'm going to set your text as a cancel. If you don't pass anything, then it will take cancel text. Okay, and here OK button, we are going to pass always text. Now here OK button text. And now here another cascading parameter I'm going to set. So when we open dialog box, then this property need to set. So mud dialog instance I'm going to set, so we can use for closing pop-up. Okay, now two method I'm going to create, one on submit button and another one on cancel. Let me set title also here. So title content, I'm going to set this title property here. Okay, now let me use this dialog component here in main layout. So on the click of logout button, I'm just going to call this logout method. Now to use dialog component, here I'm just going to inject dialog service. Now here dialog service, so dot show dialog async, and you need to specify here this dialog component that you created and the dialog title. Now here we have created parameter, title, description, OK button text and cancel button text. So for that we're going to create one parameter object that going to be type of dialog parameter. In that we are passing title, description, OK button text, cancel button text. You can set this title, description and other property this way also using lambda expression. So And here in dialog parameter, you can specify this dialog parameter is going to be type of dialog component. So after that, you don't need to specify title, description, properties typically. Now this parameter I'm going to pass here. Now here on this navigation link on click event, I'm just going to call logout method. Okay, so now here on the click of logout, it displaying confirm logout dialog box. Now on the click of yes and cancel button, let me add event here in dialog.razor component. So here on cancel button click, I'm just going to call cancel method, and here submit. Okay, now here on the click of logout, it's displaying pop-up, and on the click of cancel, it's closing pop-up. And now let's implement logic on the click of yes button. Before that, let me set here mud button variant is equal to field for OK and cancel button. And for cancel button, I'm just going to set that color as a color dot error one. And for OK button, I'm just going to set color dot success. Okay, now here in main layout, on the click of yes button, I'm going to add some logic. So for that, once we click on any action button, from that action button result, I'm just going to check if you not click on cancel button, that means we have click on that yes button. Let me run and let's check this condition executing or not. Okay, so here if I click on cancel, this condition won't execute, but if I click on yes, then this matter is this condition is executing. Now here I am just going to set preferences dot clear. So whatever the data available in preferences, that all data is going to clear. And after that, let me add here navigation manager service. And here I am just going to navigate to root page, because we already added condition on root page. If the user is not logged in, then it will display login page. Now let's check it's working or not. Okay, so now on the click of logout yes button, it's navigating to login screen, but it's not hiding this navigation drawer and app bar. So for that, this property is user logged in. coming from if the user info does not null. That means I need to set this user info as a null. Now another thing, here on login page we have not added navigation, so that also we need to add. On the click of sign in, we are just displaying success message, so instead of that now we're going to navigate to home screen. So let me add navigation manager here. Now navigation manager dot navigate to a sync, and here just I'm going to call home page. Another thing here, I'm going to set force load as a true. So whenever this home screen page open, then I want that here in main layout on initialize method will invoke. So based on that, our user info will set. Now let me run the application and let's see. Okay. Now if I click on logout, just hiding app bar and navigation drawer. Now again, let me log in. Okay, so once we log in, then again it's showing app bar and navigation drawer. Okay, now let's add a new page for creating message group. So for that, here on home page, let me add one button. So on the click of that button, we're going to open one page for creating message group. So here I'm just going to add mud button. Okay, this button I'm going to display on home page right bottom corner. So for that, here I'm just going to set style. And here I'm going to set JAD index, so it will display, button will display over content. So let me show you how it will display. Okay, it's going to look like this. Now here on the click of add button, we are going to display creating message group page. Okay, now let me create one dialog page. So on the click of this add button, we're going to display the dialog. Let me add this mud blazer here so I don't need to use on every page. Okay, so here in mud dialog container, I'm just going to create now design for it. So first I'm going to display header, create message group header. Then one close button at the end of that header. Now here content I'm going to add. So one is going to be message group name. Okay, here max line I'm going to set as a 3, so 3-line text box will be visible. Now here I'm going to add one drop down. So using mod select, I'm going to select member that I'm going to add in this message group. So whatever the member I am going to select, that is going to be type of user model, and that I am going to bind here. And here multi selection I am going to set as a true, so I can select multiple user. And this merge select variant also I'm going to set as an outline. Now here in FireTalk service, I'm just going to add one method to fetch all users. Get all users. It's going to be list of user model. So from this collection, users collection, I'm going to fetch all record. Now let me add that method here. Okay, so here in initialize async method, I'm going to fetch users from part of service and going to add here. So if the data available, then I'm going to bind here in all users. Now here I'm going to create template for this drop down. So for each user available in all user, now here I'm going to create template. Okay, so first thing I'm going to show is mud avatar, and after that username here, and also let me add email also here. Now here I'm going to add one button. So on the click of that, I'm going to create message group. Okay, now this create message group page I'm going to open here from home page. Here now I'm going to use dialog service dot show async, and I'm going to specify create message group page name. Now here in dialog option I'm going to set full screen and no header as a true, and this options I'm going to pass here. Okay, and title here I'm going to set as a just an empty title. Now let me run the application and let's see it's displaying create message group page or not. Okay, so on the click of plus button, I think it's showing some error. Let me check. So it's showing first is mud popover provider is missing. So let me first add that. So here in main layout, this I'm going to add. Other error is null reference exception. So let me check this create group page. Yeah, I think it's a here. I need to initialize first before assigning value. Now let me rerun. So now it should work. Okay, now here I'm just going to add some style. So here margin top I'm going to set, then border radius, and I'm going to make this create group stack layout as a in horizontal format, and also here z index and I will set to now. Let me run application. Okay, so now layout is displaying like this, and this API also returning data, but it's not displaying correctly because here I didn't set string format. So here in toString function I need to set the value. So if here user is null, then I'm going to return null, otherwise user dot name I'm going to display. Now let's see. Okay, so now it's selecting user, and now let me add here spacing also 0, so it won't display here much space. Okay, now I'm going to create one method here in part of service to create message group. So first here in models I'm going to create one message group model. So let me add class here. And here property I'm just going to set message group ID, then message group title, then last sent message. Another property will be the group owner ID. Then group created date time, and here members. Okay, so when I create group, and in that group whatever the members I'm going to add, that will be stored in this property. So our document will be message group. So here in Firestore collection I'm just going to write collection name as a groups, and inside that I'm just going to create this message group. Now let me add this create message group method declaration here in FireTalk service interface. Now here in create message group, I'm going to create one method. So here message title is going to be message title property, then last sent message I'm going to send as a message text, then created at, and here GUID I'm going to set, and here is in members I'm just going to select member from here selected member variable. Now here owner ID from logged in user ID I'm going to set. So for that, here in main layout I already store user info in this variable, but now I'm going to make this variable as a public static so I can access this user info on any page. Okay, so now here main layout dot user info dot ID. So owner ID will be this. Now another property I'm going to create here in message group model is last sent message time. So whoever sent last message that going to store here, and that time going to store in this variable. Okay, now here I'm going to call FireTalk service but create message group. In that I'm going to pass this payload. Now if the group is created, then I am going to display here one message. Okay, let me change this method name to save message group. Another thing, now last sent time and created at, I'm going to set that data type as a timestamp, and this property name also I'm going to change as a last sent message time. Okay, now here I'm going to add mud form also for validation purpose. So inside mud form, I'm going to add this all form content. Now here I am going to set reference as a mud form reference. Now let me set this all property as a required. Also here now this get all users will return all the users from Firestore collection. So here I'm going to add filter that only fetch data that ID does not match with the logged in user. So for that I'm just going to have this condition. Now here I'm going to call mud form reference dot validate method. If mud form dot is valid, then only I'm going to call this method. And once the group is created, then here dialog service, let me add first I dialog service interface here. Now dialog service but show message box in that group created. Now let me add this save message group method call here in mud button on click event. Now let me add loader also. Now here I am just going to set is loading as a true, and once the response come from Firebase, then I set as is loading as a false. Okay, now let me add here mud dialog instance. So after group creation, I'm just going to close this pop-up. So here after group creation, I'm just going to click mud dialog dot close method I'm going to call, and this will close this pop-up. Another method, let me add close pop-up. Here also same line I'm going to add, and now on the click of this close button, I'm just going to call same method close pop-up. Now let's rerun the application and let's see it's creating group or not. Okay, so once a group is created, that pop-up is closed. Now let's see in Firestore, it's created group or not. Okay, so the group is created here, one member added, and here all the detail available, last message, send message time, then last send message, and the members. Now another collection we're going to create is chat collection. In that it's going to contain all chat detail, and that chat detail is going to reference this group ID. So based on group ID we can fetch all chat detail. So let's create now chat model in our application. Okay, so here in models folder I am going to create new class called chat model. Here I am going to add stored data attribute, and another property I am going to add is ID, then group ID. This property for reference, what are the group we created, that reference we're going to add here. Then message tags, message created at property, and the message owner ID. Okay, now this chat model we are going to use here in FireTalk service. So here I'm going to create another method, which create chat message. And here I'm going to pass chat model, and collection I'm going to create a chat collection. Okay, now here on create message group, when the first group is created we are writing message also. So with message creation I'm going to call another method also, create chat message. So while creating group we are sending first message also. Now here group ID I am going to set as a payload dot ID. So whatever the ID we are setting here, that same ID here set as a group ID reference. Then owner ID is going to be main layout dot user info dot ID, and message is going to be, sorry, here we created text property, so text is going to be message text. Now let me run the application and let's see when I create group that time first chat also creating or not. Here group title and place message and the member selection. Okay, so here group created, message showing. Now let's see here another collection is adding chats collection. Okay, so here chat collection is created and second group also created. So here group 2 that we created. Now this ID reference is going to set here. So group ID we are setting based on that. What are the group we created here? This ID reference is setting here. Okay. Now on this page we are going to display whatever the group we created or the group that we are part of, that we're going to display here on this page. Okay, so now here in FireTalk service, one method I'm going to create that will get user groups. Here I'm going to pass logged in user ID. Now from the groups I'm going to fetch if this user ID available in members, that all groups fetch. Okay, so this will return all the groups that this user ID available in members option, members array. Now when we are creating group, we are not adding logged in user ID here in members array or member list. So we need to add that when we create in group. Otherwise, I need to write another query based on owner ID to fetch data. So that I don't want. So when we create group, that time only logged in user ID also I'm going to add here in members. So first, this I'm going to add here in interface. Now when we create in group, that time owner ID also is going to add in members. Now here on home page, I'm going to get all the groups. So if the groups available, Then I'm going to add in this object. Now this method I'm going to call here. Okay. Now I'm going to display all the groups here. So here from the groups, I'm going to display group title, then last sent message, okay. So if the data is loading, then progress bar will be visible. After that, here groups will display. So let's run and let's see it's displaying created groups or not. Right now it's not returning any group because I didn't added any owner ID inside members list. So for now, let me do one thing. Here in groups, I'm going to add this owner ID also here in members. Same thing in this another group also. Now let me rerun the application. So now it's going to display groups. Because it's written in group and it's displaying here. So here group title, then last sent message. Here I'm going to display last sent message time also. So here now I'm going to use mod tag in a row format. So in rows, first I'm going to display title and last sent message. Then I'm going to use merge spacer, and at the end of screen I'm going to use last sent message time. Then here align item. Okay, so now time is displaying in this format. So I'm going to create one method to format this time. So if I format time, then it's automatically going to align the time right side. So let me add one method to format time. So here I'm going to add this get weekly date info. So based on provided date time, it's going to format date in this format. So here I'm going to call get weekly info method, and here I'm going to set as the to date time. So now let me rerun the application. It's displaying group detail with proper date info. It's not showing loader, so let's fix that also. So here I'm just going to add merge tag layout and merge tags. Let me run application and let's see if displaying loader or not. Okay, so it's displaying loader, and once data is fetched, it's hiding it. Now I'm going to set align item as the center, so loader will display center of screen. Now on the click of this group, I'm going to display messages. So we're going to create one message screen for sending message and displaying all the message detail there.